Is the new Mean Girls movie fetch? I don't know if I'd say it's like super fetch, but it is sort of like maybe a little fetch.
Stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen.
All right, I'm sorry. I know. I'm cringing at myself for saying it. By the way, or the pink beanie, because on Wednesdays we wear pink. I just saw the new Mean Girls movie. It is a follow-up 20 years after the original Mean Girls that came out in 2004, starring Lindsay Lohan. It is not the same movie, but it is the same movie. But this movie is based on the musical that was based on the movie. It's a musical, which for some reason they don't want to promote. It's confusing, I know. We live in a time to where musicals are coming out very often, but they're rarely promoted as a musical because for some reason studios think that it's going to scare audiences away. But instead, it's making people frustrated when they show up and the movie's just sort of mid, and then it's also a musical. And for those people that think the movie is mid and also hate musicals, it's just a terrible experience for them. I did not think this movie was necessary whatsoever. I mean, the original movie is a staple. For that generation that it came out in, it was very iconic and influential, and immediately as it was released, fans went and saw it, they loved it, and it quickly became this cultural phenomenon. I mean, every year, on October 3rd.
On October 3rd, he asked me what day it was.
Hey, what day is it?
It's October 3rd.
Yeah, it gets old, but how many movies can you say today are coming out that are having that big of an impact? But of course, we live in a time to where everything under the sun has to be remade, and so what better movie to remake than Mean Girls? Now, honestly, I wasn't looking forward to this. I didn't expect it to be good. In fact, I figured it'd probably be bad. And walking away from the movie, I thought to myself, hey, that wasn't terrible. For the most part, I feel like it captures the essence of the original quite well. It helps that Tina Fey came back to write the screenplay for this movie, as well as she returned as her character from the original in this movie, as well as Tim Meadows. It was nice to see him make a return as well. But then the rest of the characters are recast. And for the most part, I feel like they meet the criteria for what those characters originally were quite well. Now, none of them are the same standouts as Rachel McAdams or Lindsay Lohan or even Amanda Seyfried. I feel like those roles were cast so perfectly at the time that it's just hard to replicate that. However, I will say there are a few surprising things that kind of actually worked for me, and I think the way that they decided to take this movie and turn it into the musical, it really benefited the entire thing. First off, Regina George is like the star of this movie. In a lot of ways, you can argue that she is the main character. She's also the antagonist, but in many ways, she is the main character. There's a lot of focus and emphasis put on her, a lot of musical sequences that are centered completely around her in particular, and really, Renee Rapp she's just great, man.
My name is Regina George.
If you didn't know, Renee Rapp is also Regina George on the Broadway musical Mean Girls. So they thought, what better way to make this movie than to get the musical Regina George to play the movie musical Regina George. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. She commands every bit of screen time. I mean, she is great. From the musical montages to her massive vocal performances to just the way that she embodies the character in general. This is what I think of Regina George to be in this light. The actors they got to play Damien and Janice as well were also very, very perfectly cast for this role, and I think they actually enhanced the characters from the original. This is the one element that I can say may actually be better. They brought so much charisma, so much character, and just boosted every scene that they were in. They also had some of the funniest moments throughout the movie as well. Now, oddly enough, the one that I felt was sort of lacking the entire way through is the one they had to play Cady. It wasn't necessarily that she was bad, and in a lot of ways, she actually embodies the nerdy character a lot better than Lindsay Lohan did, because at the time, Lindsay Lohan was an A-lister. She was a big deal, so her playing a nerd was kind of a funny choice. So in this context, she embodies that character a lot better, but when it comes to pulling her weight musically, she seemed like the least inclined out of the bunch. I'm not throwing any hate her way. It wasn't bad. It was just obvious that she couldn't keep up to the same level as the rest of the cast. Now, as I've already made it abundantly clear, this is a musical. I'm a fan of musicals. I grew up watching all the High School Musicals, for goodness sake.
Hold up.
One of my favorite movies is Tick, Tick, Boom. I like The Greatest Showman and Hamilton and In the Heights. I don't have a problem with musicals. However, it is a little harder to win me over in the context of movie musicals that are both trying to balance a narrative with these musical sequences and intertwining them both to complement each other. And I think it actually works better when the music complements the narrative rather than the other way around. In this case, it did feel like there were so many moments to where they were just going beat by beat to get to the next musical sequence. A lot of moments felt like they were lacking the emotion or the depth that was needed because they put so much more emphasis on the music. And I mean, the musical sequences were pretty well choreographed. They were directed nicely, edited very interestingly, and in a way that I haven't necessarily seen before. It felt refreshing, but there were so many times to where you're in the middle of a scene and then it just cuts abruptly to this big all-out dance number and everybody's bouncing and lights are flashing, and at times it could just be a lot. And I gotta say, as a 20-year-old in the TikTok generation, it should be my thing. It should be something that I'm into, that these movies like this that come out today have so many moments to where they inject these TikTok sequences, or people are making dance challenge videos or posting tweets or updating their status on social media. That should be my thing, right? But it isn't. I feel like it's already been overplayed, and it had a tendency to be overdone in this movie as well. I get they were trying to capitalize on the current culture and how everybody goes to social media for everything, and it is a big part of our lives and it revolves around everything that we do. But I just don't think it'll ever not be cringeworthy for me. But on the other hand, I think the way that they structured the thematics of this version of the movie is beneficial for our generation. It goes in line with a lot more of the messages that are very prevalent today, and it advocates for a lot of things that I think are very important. It does have a lot of positive messaging that I think people can take away from it. But the big question is it necessary? No, not at all. While I didn't hate my time with this movie, it's not something I needed. It's not something I couldn't live without. In comparison to the original, it doesn't do much to stand out other than the music. It's pretty much beat for beat the original movie, with a few tweaks to the characters and the themes here and there for this generation. But on a given day, if I'm forced to pick which one I want to watch, I'm gonna still go with the Mean Girls from 2004. There's a reason that that one has had so much staying power over the years, and that so many people have praised it for so many years. This one just doesn't have the same timeless quality. But I didn't hate it. I thought I'd hate it. I didn't. It's just kind of fetch. I did it again. Golly. But with all that being said, I'm going to have to give Mean Girls 2024 a 6.5 out of 10. Make sure to follow me on Letterboxd to keep up with every movie that I watch. I lock everything over there. I like to post little reviews as well to go along with what I watch. So as always, if you want to keep up with my movie watching history, check me out over there. Make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, I'm gonna go work on my one-man Broadway show that eventually I hope to turn into a movie musical. It's called Nice Guy. Golly, was that in the notes? Who's writing my jokes? That was terrible. I can't. I gotta get new writers, man.